This video is a general guideline about where to locate your voicings when you're trying to accompany a typical melody. Now in this example we're using four-way close, which is 4 notes in treble and a separate independent bass in bass clef. It's actually 5 voices, but these are the 4 notes that are referred to as four-way close. Every note is as close together as possible, and then we voice lead along. Generally speaking, we want to keep our accompaniment notes sort of out of the way and below the melody notes overall. And this gives a very full sound and also allows the melody to speak and not, you won't be stepping on the melody with your chords. But you don't want to get your voicings too low because then they'll start to get muddy. So the general rule is keep your top note of your voicings no higher than what is the most common lower note or lower area of the melody. And typically that would be, it does depend, it does vary melody to melody, but generally your top note of your voicing shouldn't go above G4 here. That's called G4. In this case, I'm keeping the melody notes even lower than that because this melody goes down fairly low. And then you don't want to have any of your close intervals like thirds and seconds lower than D3, which would be the 4th ledger line below the staff. I don't think we ever get below. We never get quite get down to there. So this is a guideline. So don't put a note any higher than this, generally. And don't put a note any lower than that. The low note was a D3, the high note was a G4. You can go a little higher if you want to, but it's just better. This is where you're going to get your fullest sound. Now there are exceptions to this. Say you want to have vocal harmonies that are above the melody, or you want to have strings floating above the melody. It does depend on the situation and the arranging technique you're using and the instrumentation. But this is just a general rule for, say, something like piano accompaniment underneath a vocal. So this is what it would sound like. And then another thing to be careful about is major 7s when you have a root in the melody. So you'll notice what I did here is I had a major 7 here. So that's fine to have the major 7 when you have a 9 in the melody, but when you go to the root, it creates a kind of a dissonance with the major 7, particularly if it's up an octave. So I changed the major 7 to a 9th here. I got rid of the major 7 basically, and I put in a 3rd and then a 9th. So, this isn't too bad when it's in the same octave, but when it's an octave higher, it can sound really dissonant. So, when you have a major 7 when you have a root in your melody and you're using a major 7 chord as your accompaniment, be careful about that major 7. Sometimes it's a good idea to just replace that major 7 with either a 6 or a root, or a 9. Okay, so those are the guidelines for getting a workable accompaniment that sounds full and stays out of the way of the melody.